I've sent around 60,000 emails to college coaches in the last 12 months, and I'm going to show you everything that actually matters and will get you more responses so you can get more interested schools, start more conversations, and hopefully get more offers. The first thing that matters is that your email lands in the primary inbox. So if you send an email to a college coach and it lands in the spam folder or it lands in the promotions folder, then they are not going to see it. And if they don't see it, they're not going to watch your video. And if they don't watch your video, they're not going to respond. And so this is a massive problem because Google and Yahoo and all these other email service providers have been cracking down on cold emails, meaning emailing people that you've never had any conversation with before or who are outside of your organization. That would include athletes sending emails to college coaches. So it is harder than ever to land in the primary inbox. And a lot of families are sending emails to coaches, not getting responses, and having no idea that coaches are never even seeing their email in the first place. And this happens quite often. I get messages from people who say, Jack, I've sent, 30 emails to college coaches. I've sent 50 emails to college coaches, and I haven't gotten a single response. Can you look at my email script? Because there must be something wrong with it. And my first question in response is, well, what is your open rate? How many coaches are opening your email? And 9.9 times out of 10, the family says, well, I have no idea. I'm not tracking that. And the thing is that when that happens, you are trying to solve a problem when you don't even know what the problem is. You assume the problem is your email script, but you don't really know. That is a guess. And if you even had the best email script in the world, if I gave you exactly what we use and what we've battle tested across 60,000 emails, if I gave that to you and you started using it, but your emails were landing in the spam folder and coaches never saw it in the first place, then it wouldn't work for you. You're solving the wrong problem. That's what data allows you to do. Data helps you diagnose where the problems are, and then you have to find the solutions once you know where the problems are. But a lot of families are trying to solve problems that they don't even know that those are the problems. And so landing in the primary inbox is one of the biggest things that a lot of families have no clue whether it's happening or not, and it's impossible to improve your college recruiting process if you don't know where the problems are. So that's the first thing. The second thing is sending to a coach who is somewhat relevant in college recruiting. Now, a lot of times you can be pretty generous with this and email coaches who are loosely involved in college recruiting and still get away with it. Why? Because college coaches talk, right? They sit in a conference room and they say, I know we're looking for this position in this grad class. I found someone from here. I found someone from here. They share that information with each other. But if you're contacting coaches who are never in that room, then you're never actually going to reach them, right? And so we want to be contacting coaches who are somewhat relevant in college recruiting. If you don't do that, your emails are going to land on deaf ears. The other thing that matters is getting accurate contact info for coaches. You could be landing in the primary inbox, sort of, and you'll see what I mean when I say that, and sending to coaches who are involved in college recruiting. But if you have bad contact info for those coaches, meaning an email address that is no longer active or that is inaccurate, then you're not actually going to reach them. They're never going to see your email. In fact, it's not going to land in the primary inbox because it's going to bounce. That is the technical term. We call those bounces when an email doesn't successfully reach somebody. And the thing about contact info is that because there's so much volatility with staffs in college recruiting, these are changing all the time, and the contact info is often not updated. That's true on college recruiting websites. That's true in a lot of college recruiting software. A lot of these softwares say, oh, we update our contact info once a month or, every other month or something like that. And a lot of them are just straight up lying, and that doesn't happen, and they're using old contact info. We've used quite a few of these and had to move off of them. This is part of the reason why we now have to do crazy quality control, even with softwares that we use. We double down, triple verify all of these as much as we possibly can because contact info is so critical. If you don't get it, everything else you do is basically useless. And so you have to have good contact info. And a lot of times this data is old. And so you got to be really careful about that. And if something comes back inaccurate, which is going to happen, like I guarantee you, even if you do quality control, you're going to have bounces simply because the volatility is so crazy. That's okay, but you have to do something about it. You have to go find another coach or find another email and try again. You don't just want to say, oh, well, that one didn't work. I'm just going to leave it alone. Now you got to double back. You got to double back and go figure out how you can reach that school. Otherwise, it's like you never sent an email in the first place. The fourth thing is personalized with name. All right. So when you write an email or a DM for that matter, and you say something like, "Hey, coach," it's not just "Hey, coach," and then a comma. You want to include their name. "Hey, Coach Kruger," right? Now, what's interesting about personalization is you would assume that the more you personalize an email, the more effective it would be. I came from a B2B world where I did a ton of cold email outside of the college recruiting process. And if you don't personalize an email, you basically have a 0% chance of getting a response. In college recruiting, I assumed that was the case too, and it simply wasn't. We used to take personalization pretty far. We would get, a list of 100 schools that we would go contact. We'd go get all the contact info for those schools. And then what we would do is we would do research on every single school and write a personalized line for each one. So for instance, it'd be like, "Hey, Coach Kruger, saw you won ACC Coach of the Year last year." And then we go into the rest of the email. And I thought it was very, very time consuming. And I thought, oh, we're doing what everyone else is not willing to do. And I thought that's why we were getting all these incredible results for people. Well, what happened was one day, we had a family come in and they were very late in the process. And I said, "Hey guys, we have to get this out so fast. We're not going to be able to personalize these emails. And I'm afraid that we're not going to get as good of results." And I said, "But we kind of have to take that chance because we're so late in the process." And this family said, "Yeah, no problem. Totally understand." And so we sent that campaign out and it crushed. It did really well. And I was a little confused about that because there was limited personalization. It's like, that was weird. So we had another family come in and I said, "Hey guys, I'd like to do something. I'd like to test this. What I'd like to test is not personalizing these emails very specifically. We'll personalize the name and we'll personalize the school, but not an actual line." And I said, "Do you mind if we try that? And if it doesn't work, I will personally personalize all of these for you." They said, "We trust you, no problem." So we sent that campaign out. Guess what? That one crushed too. And so basically, fast forward to now where we don't personalize anything besides the name and the school name. And the reason for it is we have had zero data showing that that improves your odds of getting responses at all. In fact, we started to get better results when we stopped personalizing like that. And part of the reason for that is we focused our efforts in other areas that had a greater impact on getting those results. And so I'm just sharing with you what we have learned across 60,000 emails to college coaches. Hopefully it helps you out. There are other areas in college recruiting, other times where personalizing does make a huge difference, like a really, really big difference. But in terms of these outreach emails, personalizing even just with the name and the school name is plenty. College coaches get hundreds of these things. They're not looking for you to write an essay and to tell them every little thing. They are mostly looking for the video. Or if you play a stat-based sport, a time-based sport, something like swimming or track and field, they're looking for times, right? They just want proof that you're a good player. Whatever sport you play, that's pretty much what they're looking for. So personalized with name. The other thing is the script. This is the fifth thing, which is the one that everyone sort of assumes is important, but they miss everything else. What's funny is that the script is actually a very small piece of this puzzle. Now, it does matter. If you have a bad script, then they're probably not going to watch the video and your email is basically useless. You can disqualify yourself very easily if you include something in your email that shouldn't be there. Right? So the script does matter, but it is probably not as big of a lever as most people assume. One of the most common questions I get is, "Can you give me your script?" There's probably a script somewhere out there that you can use that's good enough. You could probably look on Google or social media. You should not be paying, someone multi-thousands of dollars just for an email script. It's just not going to be worth it for you. That's not the thing that is going to drive the most amount of results. So that said, the script is important. There's a couple things that come to mind when I think about a script and what that script should be or have. The first thing is that it should be very short. Coaches don't want to read a long email. A lot of times when someone comes into the program and they see the emails that we send, they go, "That's it?" And I say, "Yes, that's precisely it." That's exactly what we want. We want someone to say that's it, because we want them to be able to read this thing in less than 30 seconds and ideally less than 20. We want this to be a very short email. That's how you're going to get coaches to do two things. One, read it in its entirety, and two, click on the video at the end of it, right? So that's the first piece of it. Other things that I think about in terms of script, I call it information overload. There's a tendency for parents to want to include every good thing that their kid has ever done in their life because they want the coach to see how amazing they are. And so they're sharing all the little details about why their kid is thebomb.com. And the problem is that college coaches don't care about any of that. And in fact, if you include too much, it can be overwhelming. And really what you want to do is not continue to add to the email. You actually want to subtract. You want to make it shorter. You want to make less links, less adjectives and descriptors. You want to keep it very bare bones and simply push people to video. Another thing I think about that's sort of piggybacking on that is what I call the paradox of choice. The paradox of choice means that the more choices you give someone, the less likely they are to pick the option that you want them to pick. When you are emailing a college coach, if you are playing a skill-based sport, which would be something like baseball, basketball, football, soccer, lacrosse, volleyball, softball, those are all skill-based sports. If your kid plays a skill-based sport, the point of these emails is to push them to video. That is the entire point of the email. And if the paradox of choice says the more options you give someone, the more likely they are to choose the one that you don't want them to pick, and we want them to go to video, then we want to reduce the number of links, meaning you want to be careful linking to things like social media, linking to things like recruiting profiles, linking to things like articles, or I'm trying to think of other things, transcripts, right? So you can end up very easily with 5 to 7 links in your recruiting email if you're not careful, and that just increases the number of choices a coach has, which means they're unlikely to take the choice that you want them to take. Those are most of the things we talk about in terms of script. Of course, there's some other ones. Talk about stats. If you include stats that are not good, there's a good chance coaches will never even click on the video. They will disqualify you immediately, so you want to be very careful with stats. There are some other things, but that should give you a good head start. What is this? What number are we on here? 6th thing is good video. So often, again, a lot of people blame the script for the reasons that they don't get any responses. But to be honest with you, a lot of times college coaches are just skimming these emails anyway. They're just going straight to the video because they know that the video is going to tell them everything that they need to know. And a lot of families don't put any thought into their video. They say, these are the best clips that my kid has. I'm going to smash them together into a highlight video, and we're going to send that to college coaches with no rhyme, no reason, no thought behind it at all. And this is part of the reason that, one, a lot of people struggle to get interest, and two, even once they get interest, they struggle to build it over time and turn that interest into offers. A lot of that comes down to video. And so we have to build video in what I call a long-term view. Meaning you don't just want short-term video that gets you interest, but you build it so that it's much easier to follow up with college coaches and build relationships over many months. Because if you want scholarships, you are absolutely going to have to build that skill. If you don't have the skill of turning interest into offers, you will have what I call a leaky bucket, which means that you are able to pour water into the bucket. That would be equivalent to getting interest, right? You get a lot of interest from college coaches, but it leaks out the backside. That's because you don't have the skill of turning interest into offers. If you don't learn that skill, you will not get the opportunities that you are looking for. We talk to thousands of parents. That is not an exaggeration. We talk to thousands of parents, and so many of them come in saying, yeah, I don't really know that we need too much help because we get, lots of interest from schools. But then we ask them, so how much of that has progressed into something substantial? And they say, well, basically none of that. That's why we're here. And I say, yeah, so generating interest is just a small part of the process. In fact, probably the easiest part of the process. The hardest part of the process is taking that interest and turning it into something real. And that is where good video is going to make a huge difference for you. And not enough people talk about this in college recruiting because they don't really understand or know. They don't have a plan for generating, or turning, interest into offers. They only have a plan for generating interest. And so that video is going to be a huge piece of whether you get responses or not to your emails. I highly recommend that you take, if you spend 60 minutes, an hour, on, your script and your video in your email. I would spend 10 minutes on the script and 50 minutes on the video because I think that that's going to get you better results. At least that's what we've seen across the tens of thousands of emails that we've sent. All right, number 7, follow-ups. So again, we've sent a lot of emails to college coaches. I could tell you with very strong confidence that if you do not follow up with schools who didn't respond, you are absolutely leaving opportunities on the table and scholarship money on the table. You're missing out on tens of thousands of dollars. I pretty much promise you. You are more likely to get responses to follow-ups than you are the initial email. So a lot of times someone will say, yeah, we've contacted 20 schools, but we haven't gotten any responses. And we say, so you've only contacted them one time each? And they say, yes. I immediately know they could probably go from getting 0 responses to maybe 2 or 3 to 20 schools if they simply contacted each of those schools a couple more times. Now, obviously, if you send to 20 schools and you send 3 emails to each school, that's 60 emails. That's a lot. But guess what? That's what it requires. If you're a parent who's been in the recruiting process for any amount of time and you are trying to get a scholarship that is worth tens of thousands of dollars. We just had someone commit not that long ago and they got, $68,000 in scholarships. That is not a small amount of money. Okay. And so if you hear that and you're like, wow, $68,000 in scholarships, I'm guessing that you're not thinking that was probably really easy to get. Like the process must have been really easy. You're like, no, that was probably really hard. Great. This is what hard feels like. You have to send that many emails. You have to send, DMs on social media. You have to make videos. You have to do things the right way in college recruiting because no one is just going to hand you a $70,000 scholarship. It's just not going to happen unless your kid is a top 5% player. And my guess is, I don't know how many minutes we are into this video. My guess is that if your kid is a top 5% player, you're not still watching this because you got plenty of offers and you don't really need to be watching this. So if you're still here at this point, my guess is that you got to put in the work and you have to follow up with these schools. Otherwise, you're just leaving opportunities on the table. So I'm going to leave it at that because I think that I made my point hard enough. The last thing I'm going to mention, and I'm just going to group these together, this is quantity and divisions. And so similarly to follow-ups, I just talked a little bit about quantity in terms of, 20 schools, 3 emails to each school would be 60 emails. All right, how do I say this? The number of emails that you need to send and the number of schools that you need to contact is significantly higher than you think it is. And I don't really know a soft way of saying that. I'm not really here to, pat your belly. I'm here to tell you what works. And I can tell you that if you're going to use email as one of the primary ways that you get on college coaches' radars, you need to take it seriously and you need to send a lot of them. Gone are the days where you can just send 30 emails, 40 emails to college coaches and expect good results. That's gone. If you're going to do this, you have to really do it. You have to contact a lot of schools. You have to send a lot of follow-ups. Otherwise, you can expect to get subpar results. That's just the way the recruiting process works nowadays. It's incredibly competitive. You have the transfer portal. You have NIL. You have roster caps. There's a lot of stuff that's working against you. This idea that you can just send 20 to 30 emails, 10 or 20 of those being to reach schools that your kid absolutely loves, it's just not going to work anymore. And so you have to go contact a lot of schools. I recommend a bare minimum of 100. And the families who we work with who get the most amount of interest in offers tend to contact more than that, right? And you might be like, well, I can't even list 100 schools, or I'm not interested in 100 schools. I'm just telling you that you're going to want to be. You're going to want to be. And there's a lot of other things that you can do within those 100 schools. There's things that allow you to get your favorite schools interested. If you contact a lot of schools, you can use the other schools as leverage, but you just going and trying to contact your favorite 20 schools over and over again, probably going to have a hard time seeing it time and again. The other thing I'll mention is divisions. So I recommend that you contact a minimum of 3 divisions, right? So D1, D2, D3, NAIA, JUCO. Ideally, you contact all 5. We just had another player commit last weekend. They got offers from all 5 divisions. So guess what? They have lots of options. They're going to be able to pick the best one. What do they care most about? One where they got the most scholarship money, one where their kid is going to have the most playing time, one that's close to home, one where the academics are amazing, one where they love the campus. They get to choose. And so there's no reason that you shouldn't contact contact a bare minimum of 3 divisions and ideally all 5. The only thing that's holding you back from doing that, there's 2 things. One is workload, and 2 is ego. So obviously that requires a lot of work to contact all 5 divisions. Welcome to college recruiting. And then the second thing is ego, saying, yeah, but my kid is a Division I player. Cool. Then why not just go get some Division II or III schools just as a safety net, just to use as leverage? Because it'll be easy for you because your kid's a Division I player. And then you can always say no to those schools if you get a D1 offer that you like. There's no reason not to do it. And so workload and ego are the 2 reasons that keep people from contacting multiple divisions. And I'm just telling you, after having worked with hundreds of players and sending a lot of emails and a lot of DMs and reviewing thousands of videos and doing a lot of this stuff, I'm telling you, if you want better results, you should be contacting hundreds of schools and you should be contacting multiple divisions. And even if you can't even name hundreds of schools, find somebody who can give you software to help you do that, because that is going to be a critical piece of you getting the options that you want at the end of the process. When you get into the process, right, you probably have this in the back of your mind. I'm guessing you don't want one offer from a school that your kid has to accept because that's the only one that they got. My guess is that you want 3 offers, right? Or 4 offers, maybe even more than that, because then your kid has a true decision and choice. And you can pick the one that is the best fit for your kid that you guys are excited about. And that is only going to happen if you do these 8 things that I just mentioned. If you're going to use email as the primary way of generating exposure in college recruiting, you have to take it seriously. This is no longer a send 20 to 30. There's a recruiting book that's going around. I read it. And they say 20 to 30, living in a dreamland. Like, that person must not be sending emails to college coaches right now in the recruiting process. I'm filming this in November of 2024. That person must not be actively in college recruiting, because that absolutely will not work. I'm just telling you, unless your kid is a top player, in which case, probably not watching this video. So anyway, I hope that this stuff was helpful for you. If you're struggling in the college recruiting process and you want us to literally just show you the keys to the kingdom and lead you to the promised land, then there's a link in the description. You can schedule a call with us. Only working with juniors and seniors. We're a little picky about who we work with, but go ahead and fill out the form, see if you qualify, and we'll walk you through what it is that we do. Otherwise, see you guys next time.